Okay, so thank you for joining us here on Vonvo.com, Rush. We appreciate it. To start, why don't you just give us a couple facts about yourself, what side you really lean towards, and how you became involved in this situation, and where you're from, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Rashad Darwish. I'm an Arab American Palestinian. My family resides in Ramallah. We have a home in Ramallah right now. Originally, my family's from a town called Bateen, which is roughly 6 miles outside of Ramallah. I live, of course, my whole life in Chicago. And in terms of how I got involved in this situation, well, it's genetics. I mean, I
Right.
grew up as a Palestinian and just grew up into it in
Right.
terms of the situation, in terms of the way it was, and how how I saw it and how my family would see things in terms of the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis.
Right. Okay. Very cool. So where exactly is Ramallah?
Ramallah
Ramallah.
is,
Sorry.
I would say, about 15 minutes north of Jerusalem. Don't quote me on that. I know it's 15 minutes away from Jerusalem, but I don't want to give the exact. I want to say it's north of Jerusalem. Well, wait. It would be south. If you're going from Ramallah to Jerusalem, you'd be heading south, and it's about a 15-minute drive. Very close drive.
Right. Okay. So in the past couple weeks, when things were very chaotic in Israel, how did that affect your life, and how do you how did you feel about the ceasefire being called?
Well, I'm the type of person who doesn't just look at any a story and just take it for what it's worth at that moment. So when Gaza, when Hamas and then the Israeli government in Egypt, when they brokered a ceasefire, it had zero effect on me because I knew that does not solve any problems.
Right.
And I knew that a ceasefire, from a public relations standpoint, it was going to make Hamas look as if they came up with a victory. And of course, that's what they tried to build it as a victory for Hamas. And I knew that was not going to be a victory because at the end of the day, while Hamas was celebrating a victory, Benjamin Netanyahu was approving the permits for thousands of more settlements being built in Jerusalem and the West Bank. So
Right.
while Hamas claims victory, the Israeli government continues to bring their vision to life, and it's to continue to occupy and to move forward with the vision of having a dominant Israeli state.
Right. Yeah. So I learned two interesting things today from other Vonvos actually. So I learned today that the ceasefires have pretty much all been violated by the Israeli side.
Well, here's the deal. This is a two-way street. If you sit with the Hamas leadership, they'll tell you every story of how ceasefires have been broken by the Israelis, and likewise, if you sit with the Israeli government, they will tell you how many ceasefires were violated,
Right.
from Hamas.
Right.
So again, that's something to me that tit for tat is not the real problem here. I mean, we can go. I can sit or speak with somebody for hours upon hours about tit for tat of you said this and you did that, and that's not what this is all about. And that's why I try not to engage in what I call news by news or blow by blow coverage because that's being too shallow. That's not the real underlying problem here.
Right, and I would 100% agree with that. So on that topic, how do you actually feel the news, both international news and the news within Israel, covers the story?
In terms of the Israeli media covering the story, like the
Um,
Jerusalem Post or Hertz, I mean, what aspect?
Kind of in general, do you feel the news and the resources you have available to you? Do you feel that those resources portray equally what's going on? Do you feel they're biased? Because over in America, like I was mentioning to you before, I really see it from a news point of view that it's very one-sided, where Israel is made out to be the victim, and Hamas and is really made out to be the proponent of the war here. And from what I've come to learn on Vonvos, that's not necessarily the case. And Israel at times is on the offensive, and not always the defensive. So do you feel that the resources you have available to are biased or not really portraying the story the right way? Or
Well, here's the deal. Here in the United States, at least from a government standpoint, Hamas is viewed as a terrorist group.
right,
Um, if right now the Syrian rebels or the Libyan rebels, because America has labeled them as fighters for freedom, well, then it means they're freedom fighters. So, and now Hamas could have maybe somehow, some way, 20, 25 years ago, if they were labeled as freedom fighters, and that's what they would be if that's what America labeled them. So, in terms of what the media and what government labels, it does have an impact. And I mean, Hamas and the way people, you can't expect the media here in America or the Israeli media to give Hamas any type of legitimacy. Because again, when the higher powers have already put a label on them,
right,
called them terrorists, call them axes of evil, then you think I'm going to change their minds? That's it. They are what they say they are.
right, exactly. I mean, and that's where Von.
What do I think? I think is it bullshit? Of course it is, because if you're going to keep calling somebody the bad guy, you're going to keep calling him evil, you're going to keep calling him no good, and if there's no path for legitimacy for Hamas, and you're calling them the scum of the earth, then that's it. What do you expect from them?
Right. Exactly, and that's honestly why we've created Vonvo, where we can have citizens kind of do some citizen journalism and report what they know, and people can make objective decisions and make their own conclusions, and that's really where the where Vonvo comes from.
Well,
So
it's definitely a good concept, and I think it's. And I'm glad that there's thing out there like this to give a chance for people to speak their minds and to connect.
yeah, thank you. So on a lighter note and on a positive note, what do you think needs to be done in order to reach peace between Israel and
I'll
Palestinians?
tell you, Alex, that's a very loaded. It's a very loaded,
Yeah,
complicated, and sensitive question.
yeah,
But to me, and this isn't even speaking as just somebody who's Palestinian. I've tried everything in my heart and mind to try and act as a person uh, with a common sense approach. And the question is this: do you genuinely, legitimately want peace? And that's really the question. If you really, really want it, and that's not directed to you. I'm just phrasing it as if somebody wants peace.
right,
I think we have a clear-cut situation, and that is whether we like Hamas or not, or whether we like the Palestinian Authority or not. At the end of the day, the Israeli government, the Likud party, Benjamin Netanyahu, they have the power. They have the keys to success or failure when it comes to peace. I think the Palestinians have some leverage, but I would say they probably have, out of 100%, they probably have about 5% leverage. So I will start by saying the keys to peace begins with the Israeli government. They have the power to make peace. And I think at the end of the day, and this is just I think it's not even opinion, I think there's a lot of truth to this. I don't think it matters what the Palestinians do. I think you can be Fatah, you can be with the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, who are basically, as of late, a very violent free organization. That's one extreme. Or you can be Hamas, who are launching missiles every other day
right,
into Israeli territories. We have two different governments in Palestine. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what government you are, because again, it falls into what the Israeli government wants to do. I think I will share this with you, and this is where I'm kind of going to have to be a little bit long-winded. But my theory is very simple. I believe that the Israeli government needs a Hamas. They need it because the Israeli government has shown that they will do whatever means necessary to not have to negotiate. And you need a player like Hamas, a group full of so much conflict. So that could be your reason to say, hey, I'm not negotiating with these people. This Hamas group, they say that they don't want us to exist. They launch missiles at us, and so on and so forth. So the Israeli government needs a group like Hamas to just get away from negotiation tables or avoid peace at all costs. So that's my take on it.
It's an very interesting theory. Something I definitely haven't heard before. So you don't think? I mean, I've heard the saying been brought up multiple times that if Hamas were to lay down its weapons, there would be peace tomorrow. You don't think Israel would necessarily? You find that funny?
Oh man, that to me, and again, I try my absolute best to not be the Palestinian. It's kind of like this. Um, I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, but if the Bulls stink, I'm going to say they're going to stink. It doesn't matter because I love the team.
Right.
They are what they are. So I won't just make opinions because I'm a Palestinian. I'm going to just try and side with the Palestinians.
Okay.
So I just want to make that very clear.
Fair
That's
enough.
not what this is all about. My opinion with Hamas is this. In the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of Hamas being this legitimate organization, they're peanuts. They're not this big bad. You're saying lay down weapons. Well, again, in the grand scheme of military might, Hamas is a very small group of 10,000. They're like a bunch of thugs, if you will. They're not really this legitimate, organized, dangerous army. Yeah, they're launching these missiles. The majority of them don't even make, and Israel has the capabilities of intercepting pretty much all of them.
Yep.
With their Golden Dome missile defense.
Yeah, the Iron Dome.
In terms of that theory that Hamas lay down their weapons, there'll be peace tomorrow. There's just no way. That is not the case. It has nothing to do with Hamas or their missiles. This is all about the spin, and like I said, the Israeli government needs the spin, and Hamas puts it right in their hands. Here you go. As long as there's a Hamas, there's conflict. There's an excuse. There's a reason for not to achieve peace. So Israel needs that, because if you do have Hamas and they just lay down their weapons, and then you have the Palestinian Authority doing what they're doing, with again they've been fairly violent free within the last couple of years. Could there be peace? I don't think so. I think really what it's going to be a public relations nightmare for Israel, because you're going to have different parts of Europe, including even the United States, saying, hey, everything is clear now. Go ahead, let's go make peace.
Right. Definitely interesting. Yeah, so kind of, I'm assuming you would kind of say the same thing in regards to, I guess actually, since you have lived in Israel and you are Palestinian, do you, have you experienced firsthand, like, the checkpoints and roadblocks being singled out, and can you maybe describe that a little bit?
Absolutely. It's got touches of, I've never lived in the slavery era, but that's probably the closest, or maybe living in the 60s, where, the blacks in America did not have the same civil rights as or the same rights as, non-colored people.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. When you hit those checkpoints, it's degrading. There's a message that says that you don't belong here. All you have to do is visit those checkpoints. The soldiers that are working those checkpoints want to make it very clear to you that you belong here, and they hope that they want to make your experience as miserable as possible, just so you think twice to have to visit again.
Right, and the same goes for the roadblocks and not being able to use Israeli roads, where you have to travel extra miles, whatever it is, 5, 10, 20 miles, and extra hours are added onto your trips if you want to just go the same distance an Israeli would go. It's just...
Well, here's the thing, and I'll be the first one to say on record, the Palestinians are far from perfect. They've made a lot of mistakes. They've killed some innocent people, innocent Israelis. You have to call it the way it is. It's nowhere near the magnitude of what the Israeli army, the IDF, has done to the Palestinian. There's no comparison, but nonetheless, that's something that has to be recognized. But again, I do believe that the infrastructure of Israel is meant for two reasons. And again, this is probably the cynical side of me coming out. For one aspect, it is for the security and for the convenience of the Israeli people naturally. I mean, why not build the best roads and have the best access for your people? But on the other hand, like you mentioned, the longer drives and the barricades and the roadblocks and how, what would take you 5 minutes to get to one place, now it takes you 35 minutes. This is all, again, this is a psychological factor that nobody really talks about. But this is what we call the art of suppression. This is the art of misery. Because at the end of the day, how do you get the other person to leave or to submit? You have to suppress them. You have to create misery, and
Right.
that's one of the many things that you do. You put roadblocks. You cut off the water, cut off the electricity. If one person kills a soldier, well, that means 30 people have to die and 100 people have to go to jail. I mean, this is all part of the grand psychological game. It doesn't require missiles. It doesn't require Apache helicopters. But that psychological game is just as powerful as drones or any other powerful machinery the Israeli army or the IDF may have.
Right, but to balance it, at what point do you consider the IDF and Israelis using roadblocks and checkpoints as non-violent ways of fighting their war? As a
You know, Here's the thing. Um, in terms of saying that you're right, nobody's saying that these checkpoints are violent. I'm not saying that you get out and then they're beating you with a gun or pistol whipping you as you're walking out. The problem is that there's parts of the West Bank when they're just heavily unnecessary. See, this is where the problem is, and this is why I think we have a major problem. Is that if we want to debate Jerusalem in terms of building settlements, fine, we'll have that debate. But for me, it's tough to have a debate to go build in Nablus, to go build settlements in Ramallah, these Palestinian Arab dense populated areas. That to me doesn't sound like that to me is just how do I put this? They shouldn't be there in the first place, is what I'm trying to say. They shouldn't be there. It's Palestinian. Palestinians live there. It just doesn't make sense that they're there in the first place. I think that's really all I can say about that.
Right, and that's it. That's in regards to the settlements that have been built,
Talking about
or
the settlements. That's
occupation, or the occupation in general.
I'm talking about I'm talking about the checkpoints as well.
Right.
Yeah, I'm saying these are the checkpoints are there because of the settlements that are there as well.
Right.
And the problem is putting settlements. And I see this all the time. When I was there 2 years ago, I'm always in disbelief when I see these populated Arab dense areas like in Nablus or Ramallah, and then you see these settlements that are just cluttered in between. It just doesn't make sense. It's a geographical issue where you're just like it shouldn't be there in the first place. So yeah, they work hand in hand. If those checkpoints, if those settlements weren't there, the checkpoints won't be there either.
Right, it's true. Yeah, because I've been doing a little research on checkpoints and just hearing some stories about what goes on at the checkpoints, and I've come to realize that actually a lot of the checkpoints are, if you're traveling, are from one Palestinian town to another Palestinian town.
That's exactly right.
So what are those?
That's what I'm saying. It's not where it's going from Tel Aviv to this. No. These are from Arab towns to Arab towns, but there are some settlements in between. Maybe in some points there aren't settlements. I can't even guarantee that there are settlements by every checkpoint. So yeah, I mean it's definitely, again, I can't buy into it that it's just a straight up act of just just part of the system, come on by. I mean, these are checkpoints that are everywhere, and again, it's not like they're just telling you to go by. A lot of times they harass you, they have you come out of the car, and it's not in favor for the Palestinian people. That I'll tell you, and it's not exactly fair for the Israelis or the Palestinians. No, this is directly pointed at the Palestinians. Everybody's treated like they're guilty. In America, you're innocent before proven guilty. The tone of the Israeli Defense Force is that you're Palestinian and you're just guilty. And then that's where the problem is there. And that's the problem.
Right. And what's your take? I mean, obviously it's not going to be a positive one, but what's your take on the wall that's being built as a new means of separation.
Well, I mean, it's a great human rights catastrophe. There's no other way around it. Again, it goes back to what I'm saying. You're guilty. If you're Palestinian, you're guilty. We can't say that the IDF does not have the technology via drones, and they have other mechanisms as well, not just the drones, to monitor anybody that's creating any type of illegal activity. I mean, they have the greatest intelligence unit, maybe just as great as America. You can make that argument. So when you say that you have to build a wall, it's not the 1800s. You have hundreds of different means to gain access and information of people who are trying to do harm or trying to do no good. So putting up a wall is, once again, it is all part of the psychological warfare that, again, people don't like to talk about. But that's what this is really about.
Right.
I'm very sorry. Hold on 1 second, please.
No problem. Take your time.
This is Rush. Sorry about that. I had to take that call. It's one of my workers.
No problem. If you need to go, I mean, we can always speak again, or I mean, if you.
I got a couple more minutes, and I appreciate your time, and I know you're asking all the questions. I wasn't aware of the nature of or the platform of this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions to ask me, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Alex, I mean, you could always be honest with me, in terms of your position. If you're pro-Israeli, there's nothing wrong with that. I just want you to know that.
No, I really see. I'm from Long Island, right outside Manhattan, and I'm Jewish.
You're Jewish American, though, right?
I am Jewish. I am Jewish American, but just I've really never had any really. I wasn't very religious growing up, so I don't really lean either way. I wasn't bar mitzvahed or anything. I've never been to Israel, so I don't necessarily have a reason to be pro-Israel. I've only seen and heard what's on the news in America. That's as far, and I've heard from a lot of my Jewish friends who are Israeli and are going now to serve in IDF. Like, I've only heard from them. I don't have any Palestinian friends, any Arab friends. So it's really just been one side of information to me. But
let me give you the best. I'll tell you, Alex. This is the best example I could maybe the best example. It might not sound like it is, but here's the deal. Your friends and your family, who serve in the military, they're good people, right?
Right.
I'm assuming they're good people. They're loved ones.
Yes. Is
that fair to say? It's kind of like I have good friends who I love and I respect, but they're racist against blacks and they have nothing but bad things to say about them.
Right.
And if you listen to all their stuff, you could easily walk away and say, "Wow," and it may be influenced by, all the bad things they're saying about black people. I mean, this is like the truth I'm saying. Like, and I think that's kind of how it is when it comes to how Palestinians perceive Israelis and Israelis perceive Palestinians. It's like they're just stuck on how they think. This is who they are. They're this, they're that, they're that. They're dirty. They're violent. They want to kill you. And are there people out there that are like that? Absolutely, from both ends. But the truth is there are people, just like myself, who look at this conflict between the Palestinians and Israelis. It's gone to the point now where, I used to get mad. Sometimes I'd get teary-eyed, but now it's almost like I chuckle, shake my head, and move on. I've realized that this thing it's really turned out of a tragic joke.
Right.
It's probably the best way I can describe
it.
No,
it's true, and I mean, I'm being honest with you, and I say I don't really lean either way. I'm not just saying that so I don't offend you, but I mean, and I'm not trying to promote my site here, but really coming on Vonvo and listening to individuals such as yourself, and I've spoken to people in Israel and Palestinians who have also have been very affected by this conflict, and my eyes have been opened to the whole other side of the story, and now I'm able to come here, and I'm being honest. If it was maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I hadn't had a Vonvo, and you were telling me all of this, saying that these checkpoints are unnecessary, not unnecessary, but these checkpoints aren't as needed as they make them out to be, and they're completely all for to manage terrorism and they're not just for control, I might have not believed you. But coming here and speaking to everyone I've spoken to, and at this point, it's probably maybe a little more pro-Palestinian people. My eyes have really been open to both sides of the story. And once again, I kind of fall in the middle where I don't side with either or because I'm not personally affected by either or, because it's an international issue. But I am starting to see that it's not one-sided by any means, and I can agree with you on a lot of points that you are making.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'll just kind of go back to this original point, is that, and again, I'm going to try and simplify and give the best example.
Right.
If, Alex, you had $1 million, doesn't matter how you got it. You and I can debate back and forth whether you stole it from me. Historically, it's yours. But the bottom line is you got $1 million, or even let's say $10 million.
Right.
And here I'm, let's say I was the guardian or the holder of it for 50 years. Now you came in, you took it because you have the might, and now we're trying to negotiate of how, splitting up the money. But when it's all said and done, you got the money, and no higher authority or nobody, you're not threatened by any, an outside force of somebody saying you have to give it back. So sure, you have the option from the goodness of your heart to just kind of like, man, say, screw all this trouble and all this heartache. Fine, here's half of the money. Let's just have peace. I don't want to deal with this anymore. You have that option. But at the end of the day, you could say, no, not only am I going to take that $1 million, I'm going to spend it, and I'm not going to negotiate. I'm going to spend all that money. If I make more, you get where I'm coming from, right?
No, of course, but at what point?
You get the example.
Of course, but at what point do you say, when I give you the 500,000, do you say, "Oh, that's enough. I don't want more from you as well"?
It's a very valid point. This is where, as a Palestinian, I'm confused by this as well. Hold on really quick. 1 second.
No problem.
Okay. Just wanted to double check. As a Palestinian, you're right. I can't help but question the moments in 1948, 1967. I want to say 1993, 1998. These are all what we call, crucial years in negotiating, where there was some offer, a negotiation, and we always had a situation. And please double check. There should be a pack in there, yes, but check, yes. Sorry about that.
No problem.
But yeah, I can't help but question that. However, if you read the fine line of all those agreements, nothing was set in stone that was actually going to happen. Like these type of peace agreements were actually going to go through. And if you recall, in the early mid-1980s, with Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, that seemed like that was a peace treaty that was going to go through, and what ended up happening to the Prime Minister, right?
Right.
The Israeli Prime Minister, he was assassinated by his own people.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to tell. You're right, I can't help but say, if we just, I thought it was a bluff, but at the end of the day, the Palestinians should have at least taken just to play along to see if this thing was really going to go through.
Right, because do you honestly believe that a two-state solution would work? Let's say it was actually 50-50 tomorrow, two-state solution. There was 50-50 borders and land and everything. Would that work?
Here's the problem, Alex. The reason why I say it would not work is because, again, the Israeli government will not surrender 50% power completely, 100% towards the Palestinian Authority.
Right.
We're talking economics, infrastructure. It's just not that easy. The Israeli government, by the way, they're brilliant, and that's a compliment to them, because as time goes by, more settlements are being built. The more settlements that are being built on occupied land or disputed land, it becomes more and more difficult to get all these settlements out. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, there's my gosh, I forgot the name of. There's a settlement just outside of this town called Nablus. I believe there's 200,000 people that live there. 200,000 people live there.
Right.
So what do you do? Are you going to move up? I mean, are you really going to move them out? So that's what I'm saying. It's like you're saying, well, what if we did 50-50? Can you really at this point do 50-50? You know, this would be seen as a catastrophic failure for the Israeli movement. I mean, this would be of epic proportions. You think Benjamin Netanyahu on his watch would be willing to give 50-50? See, for you and me, Alex, that's the way to do it. All right, both you guys, you, quit your bitching. Here's 50, here's 50. Boom, call it a day. Now, come on now, for the Israeli movement, this would be the greatest catastrophic failure because right now, technically, if I'm not mistaken, the Israeli occupation is at 88%, meaning 88% of the land it's all, Israeli settlements, Israeli homes, Israeli infrastructure, 88%.
Right. But at the
So
same,
to give,
go ahead, finish your point.
go ahead.
Okay, so I was gonna say, but
No, I'm saying to give 50-50, I'm just going with the mind of the Israeli government, the mind of a pro-Israeli.
right.
I'm just saying, what you just asked a hypothetical, we did a 50-50. I'm saying, look, think about it. The Israeli government could do that tomorrow if they wanted to, whether the Palestinians wanted it or not. Think about it. The Israeli government could move the settlements out tomorrow, whether the Palestinians wanted that or not. They can break the walls down tomorrow, whether the Israeli government, the Palestinian people wanted it or not. So, like I said, it's all in the Israeli hand. It's all in the Israeli government's hands, and that's really the truth. They're the ones who have the power here.
Right. Okay.
You think? Let me ask you this, Alex.
Sure.
You think the Palestinians tomorrow? These are fair questions. You've asked me a lot of questions. I'm going to ask you
Sure.
a question. Do you feel that tomorrow, if the Israeli government woke up and just decided to tear down all the walls, do you think the Palestinians would dispute this? I'm just asking. Do you think there's Palestinians would say, "How dare you break the walls down"?
No, I do not.
I'm going to keep going here. Here we go.
Okay.
In parts of Ramallah, parts of the West Bank. If tomorrow, Benjamin Netanyahu woke up, stretched his arms, guy who had some breakfast, had some falafel and hummus, gets up, he's like, you know what? Those settlements we just built over there in East Jerusalem, let's just move them out. Let's just move them out. Come on, this is causing a lot of trouble. Do you think the Palestinians, they're going to complain?
No, I do not.
And that's what I'm trying to say. It's in their hands. They can make the moves. It's the problem is, or the situation is, why would they? Why do they need to? If they made those moves, it would be a great symbol of defeat. Because that is the problem. If the Israelis want peace, that is also a symbol to them as a great defeat, a colossal defeat. The forefathers, the Zionist movements, the Likud party, the prime ministers, would be a historical collapse if you started doing these things. I mean, this is they're trying to expand and to protect everything you have. Again, there's no reason for them to give anything up. There's nothing that'll turn them away. I mean, to change their minds.
But is it as simple as saying that if Israel says, okay, we're going to stop fighting tomorrow and give you some more land and put our weapons down, is it that simple where Palestinians and Hamas and other people wouldn't take that as a sign of weakness and then use that as a strategy to move forward and try and get more?
Alex, let's dream for a little. You're going to think now my ultra liberal side is going to come out. Now, the West Bank, they've been, even though there's some checkpoints, but we have to call it the way it is. I was there 2 years ago. There's some checkpoints, but
Of course.
the security in the West Bank has lightened up a lot.
Okay.
The military presence is nowhere near what it used to be.
Okay.
When I went in 2000 or 1992, tanks are always, not tanks, Jeeps are there, soldiers are always on foot, harassment every other minute. it was nonstop. It was out of control. Well, you know what? That's not there anymore. So what's happened since then? Well, what's happened is the economy in the West Bank has improved dramatically. More shops are opening up. More people are going out and eating, buying. More people are working. Now, do they have a long way to go in unemployment? Sure. But, man, they've made unbelievable strides. Benjamin Netanyahu a year ago was bragging about it. He's like, look at the West Bank. Look at them. They're striving. Look what we've done for the West Bank.
Right.
So this is what happens when you push back. The fact is the Palestinians are just like you and me. They want to work. They want to live. They want to take care of their families. So now, let's talk about Hamas. Let's talk about Gaza. This is the truth. I mean, people want to paint, Hamas as these evil doers and they're just out for no good. I guarantee you this. Here's what you do with Gaza if you want to take my liberal dream movement. Bring the walls down. Bring in America or some of these rich European countries. Invest $1 billion into Gaza. Build hotels. Build different sightseeings. Build some boats. And I guarantee you, Gaza, if people are going to work, put people to work, of course, Gaza could be your Las Vegas of the of that area. I guarantee you. Put them to work. Put them to work.
Would you take
and you'll see those people in the militants. Why are they going to be in the military anymore? Why, when they can get a job at a hotel?
Would you take a family vacation there? Would you take a family vacation there?
Well, actually, just so you know, I'm signing up for a marathon in Gaza in April.
Wow.
There's a Gaza marathon, a 26 miler.
Wow.
Yeah, I coordinate a charity team called Team Palestine.
Okay.
And we raise money for a charity called Palestine Children's Relief Fund.
Mm-hmm.
And we plan on traveling there as a team in April for the Gaza Marathon.
Very cool.
You do any running, Alex?
I'm a student right now, so I've been very busy with finals and all that kind of stuff. But I'll get back in the gym, get on my treadmill soon.
Hey, Alex, if you sign up for a run, they give you a goodie bag. You know, when you sign up for like a 5K?
Yeah.
Yeah, they give you a goodie bag with like candy bars or like a T-shirt. My running joke is, for the Gaza Marathon, you get your bib number, and you also get a bulletproof vest for the race. It's a great goodie bag.
That's funny. Yeah, so isn't that kind of dangerous to go run a marathon there?
A high-risk maneuver, you're right. But, we just feel as a team it'd be just a beautiful thing to represent the charity, to run on, in a land where, whether it's not just about Hamas, to honor all the innocent children, and that's the truth. A lot of innocent children have been killed in the crossfire of war. Thousands of children, with shrapnel damage to their face and their head, and so we're going to raise money for those, and that's what it's really all about. So yeah, it is dangerous, but we think it's worth it. We think it's very symbolic.
Right, it's very respectable, and I think that's great. And I'm not trying to get off that topic, but in regards to the innocent children, let's say, that have been killed there, how much do you believe that has to do with human shielding and Hamas placing launch sites in hospitals and schools and playgrounds and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and here's the thing: I don't have the intelligence on that. I don't think, and this is just a sheer opinion, I don't think Hamas purposely puts their launch sites, by schools or by children. And I disagree with that 100%. Not at all. I think these areas are very cluttery. It's a million people living in like 10 square miles, and it's not like you have a lot of open options. You're trying to put these weapons in areas where where the Israeli their satellite systems can't catch. So it surely doesn't make it right, and I surely don't support it. But I don't think their intentions are to do it as human shields. Absolutely not. I just don't see that.
Right. Okay. I mean, in Israel, in regards to the area being very cluttered, I mean, you do know that Israel drops leaflets and has a system that emails and calls individuals where a rocket is going to hit. They do try and decrease the amount of potential casualties that will happen to innocent civilians.
I think I am aware that there are some warning calls, but I can't sit here and say that all of them, that everybody has that level of proper communications to know that they're going to be hit. And I can't sit here and again like I'm not going to stick up for Hamas. I'm not going to stick up for the IDF and say that they provide that type of information every single time that there's a place that's going to be hit. I don't think if there's a militant, a Hamas militant that they're targeting, that they're going to tell them, hey, we're going to be targeting you in 10 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm the militant and told that you're going to hit my building in 10 minutes, yeah, I'm out the door, but I don't think that's always what they do.
Right, it's true. Yeah, and I spoke to a whole bunch of Israelis, and I couldn't imagine they were in Tel Aviv, and they were explaining to me before the ceasefire the alarms that they would hear, and when the alarms go off, they have less than a minute to get to the nearest bomb shelter, and the alarms are going off multiple times a day, and I can only imagine them just running to, I mean, being sympathetic to them as well.
Yeah.
I just
It's definitely scary, and but here's the thing, and this is where I'm going to have to sound a little harsh. Although there's been a couple of casualties, the Israelis deal with the illusion of getting attacked. The Palestinians deal with the reality of getting attacked. So that is the difference between the two. And
can you explain that a little more? Is that just because Israel has the Iron Dome and they're able to shoot rockets down, or explain that a little more, please?
Yeah, what I mean is that yes, I mean they have the one. Not only do they have the technology to shoot down missiles, they have the technology to shoot down the missile sites as well. I'm not saying that the Israelis, shouldn't have a right to be scared, but again, the casualties are at a minimum. And no, but it's more of the illusion. And, you can't, again, you have the right to be scared. I'd be scared too if I was an Israeli living in Tel Aviv or one of these areas where, alarms go off. How could you not be scared? But again, at the end of the day, that's what it is, though. It's a scare. You're running for your life. But when it's all said and done, you're protected. Either the missile doesn't make, or they have the technology. The Israeli government has the IDF has the ability to turn it down. To shoot it down.
Right.
So that's what I mean by the reality is with Gaza. No, it's like, man, they're launching missiles, and even if they give somebody a warning, where that missile's going to launch, I mean, it can blow down 7 different homes at one time. Killing an entire family, killing families. So that's a huge difference, and I just want to say that's a fact, not an opinion. The fact is these missiles strike. When the Israelis strike, it's calculated and it cannot be defended. Meaning Hamas doesn't have a way to defend those planes, those missiles coming. Right. So one has defense and the other one is defenseless.
Yeah.
But Alex, both are wrong. This sucker is one big ass hot mess. It's super complicated, very sensitive, and real action needs to be taken. But if you're going to take real action, here's the problem, is that America could take real action against Hamas. You could take real action doing embargoes, sanctions, whatever you want to do. But here's the problem. If we are all to agree that Israel is part of the problem, or the Israeli government is part of the problem, that means you have to take some level of action on them as well, and that just isn't going to happen. So what's the point?
Right. I agree.
So, Alex, man, I appreciate your time. I wish we had more people join in.
Oh, definitely. So, I mean, if you like the experience here, we can have Vonvo's next weekend or whenever you're free. I mean, we definitely have a community of people who are kind of starting to develop around the Israeli and Palestinian conflict on Vonvo's. So, next time you come on it.
What I'm going to do,
go ahead.
Hey, Alex, what I'll do for you guys, I did a show called Rise Up, and it was a show that just used to talk about Middle East news. Of course, specifically Palestine and Israeli stuff.
Right.
When I get back on the air, we'll find a way to bring you guys into the show as well. Connect Vonvo.
I would love that.
To my program, and we'll have like an open discussion.
I would love that and appreciate it very much.
I always want to keep the door open on this issue. It's we definitely need to talk about it. Here's the thing, Alex. We all need to talk about it.
Right.
But what we all really need to do is come together as Americans and have one voice as to what we all should believe should happen.
Right.
Talking is good. That's one step. But if we really want peace, we really want something to happen, there needs to be a large community of Americans. Forget about Palestinians or Israelis. A large group of Americans who have one voice towards this issue and say, "Hey, this is what really needs to happen."
Right. No, I agree.
You know
And
what I'm saying?
yeah, and I just think I think it's unfortunate. And once again, not just promoting Vonvo, I just don't know where we could have those conversations. And that's kind of why Max and I have made Vonvo and issues like this that we can't speak about anywhere online or in person. Where do we go to speak about it? And that's what Vonvo. I'm trying to get people to
Yeah,
speak about these kind of things.
yeah, Jews and Muslims, Arabs and Israelis. I mean, it's really tough to have this
Yeah.
conversation. People are, here's the problem: either people are way too scared to talk about it, or they're way too angry to talk about it. Meaning, if let's say Max comes on and he starts taking a couple of negative comments towards what the Palestinians do, then the Palestinian gets so upset and they can't have the conversation.
Right.
That's the problem. Is that I'm not saying Max is like this. The problem is the Israeli extremists or the Palestinian extremists absolutely refuse that they're wrong. They don't want to admit that they're wrong. They've done no wrong. The Palestinian, the extreme Palestinian says all the land should be ours. All the Zionists, if you will, the pro-Israeli Zionists will say the Palestinian needs out. They don't have a right to exist, and that's what the problem is that there are some people on both ends that don't believe the other should exist.
Right.
And you know what? When you have that, that's a big ass problem, man. It's how can I change somebody's mind who feels that way? I have family members that believe it's a one-state solution, and I don't mean one state for the Israelis. No, I have many family members who are one state, meaning it's a Palestinian state.
Right.
And it's like, what world are you living in?
Yeah.
Again, 88%. You got a settlement in your backyard. You step out of your home, and you got settlements right there. So how do you say one state? Where are you getting this from? What is in your head? So it is what it is, Alex. It is what it is. But I definitely want to keep the door open with you guys.
All right, cool. So let's stay in touch. Like I said, we have scheduled Vonvos hopefully happening all the time now. And I mean, I'd love to help you guys out in any way we can. So just let's stay in touch and try and get some stuff going together.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, Alex, when we get off here, you're not going to crush me, are you?
No,
You're
definitely.
going to be like, this frickin' Hamas militant comes on my Vonvo and wants to blow up my website.
No, definitely not.
All right, man. I'm glad we talked.
So am I.
Man, we'll be in touch.
All right, cool. Thank you very much for stopping by, and yeah, let's stay in touch.
Take care. Yeah, for sure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.